Good evening and welcome to The Uncomfortable Truth, episode 11. Please share, like, and subscribe. Hope you're all enjoying the festivities. We have a great show today as we're looking at the Premier League, classic Premier League rivalry in Manchester United and Arsenal and seeing what has happened since. To help dissect this, we have a special guest today who has been following the Arsenal since the early 90s, seeing the ups and downs and highs and lows all the way from down under. So please welcome the AussieGooner.
Thanks for that intro, man. I really appreciate that, dude. Thanks for having me. It's going to be fun to break this down, boys. It's going to be fun. Looking back at the glory days, eh? Good times. The all or nothing days.
Well, could be upsetting the more we talk about it, but
yeah, we just got to stop thinking about what's happening as of late.
Yes.
Yeah, we can ignore that completely.
Absolutely. And of course, guys, this isn't the Uncomfortable Truth show without the Doctor. Sam, good to have you on, bro. Good to have you on.
It's impartial, good to be here.
Impartial Man Night View.
Yeah. We'll say that. I
think I might have to be the middle ground here at this point. Even have to just cover these up.
Nah. I'll show mine.
Nah. To be honest, as I said, like Manchester United and Arsenal, this is something that when you look at the media, this is a really bigged up fixture, and of course it's because of what's happened in 90s and early 2000s. But let's be honest, like where are the clubs now? When you really think about it, Arsenal, and I'm talking about from a Premier League perspective, they haven't won a Premier League for 17 years now. Manchester United, they're quickly approaching a decade. So for me, I kind of want to look at what's kind of gone wrong, because these two teams, I don't think you can underestimate how big these two teams were in that rivalry. It felt like it was the first big Premier League rivalry going. And boy, it was entertaining. There was so much going on, which we'll talk about when we go back to the past. But Aussie, what do you think has kind of gone wrong, really? You've watched Arsenal, during the heights of it all. So yeah, let's get your sort of general sort of view on that.
Okay, now everyone's going to be like, oh, he's jumping on a bandwagon, but American ownership is probably the worst. We went away from being a football club to being entertainment. We went away from wanting to win trophies, but wanting to build stadiums and a bigger seating capacity. Our focus went away from the Premier League and football and glory. It came into marketability. It came into clothes. It came into getting the big names, but just trying to get the bums on the seats. And I think that's one of the biggest things that has led to Arsenal's demise. I mean, I remember when we were when Highbury was going to get demolished and we were moving into the Emirates, and at that time that scared the shit out of me. I was like, oh, I can't believe we're moving out of Highbury, because Highbury was home. And it still brings a bit of a tear to my eye. But to be honest, I was like, this might not go down well, because I was thinking, are we going to be able to pay for this? And we did. We paid for it for year on year on year with dismal signings, poor football, and now we've come to the current times, and we're all expecting Arsenal to be up there with the high-end teams like Chelsea and Liverpool, but we've been off this pace for so long. We are playing catch-up. We allowed them to catch us, and Man United respectively. We allowed Chelsea, we allowed Manchester City to keep going forward and build their squads. I mean, look at Chelsea Stadium, right? I remember signs of Save the Bridge. That stadium ain't changed, right? Yeah. I remember those signs, and it's they haven't changed their stadium. They haven't gone and said, "Oh, look, we're going to go and try to get maximum." All that.
Obviously, they got a hotel. Come on, they got a hotel now. They put a hotel in shed.
That's nearly an extension. That's nearly an extension.
God, mate, it's like, we got a granny flat out the back, mate. Yeah, we've done well, mate. We've done well. Like, come on, mate. And so they went at it for the joke. They go, we want trophies, we want glory, and they stuck on that road, and they got it. Whereas I think Manchester United and Arsenal, kind of, we drifted. We were like, oh, we're successful and we're going to continue to have this success regardless of our approach to our football. And unfortunately, both teams have become mid-table. I mean, in some cases, mid-table teams, we're not taken seriously.
Mm.
Going to Old Trafford, if you remember, teams went to Old Trafford, and it was like, shit, we're going to Old Trafford. This is going to be hard.
Mm.
Not anymore. It's no longer a fortress. Going to play Arsenal, it's like, oh God, here we go, the Arsenal. This is going to be difficult. Nah, it hasn't been that way. And I think I honestly put it down to American ownership and us being pulled away from our roots, which was going for glory, going for playing for football, and not playing for bums on seats, lights, and sponsorship deals.
Yeah,
which unfortunately have clouded our our judgment.
that's a quite a nice summary with regards to Arsenal and a touch point on Man United. Sam, I'll ask you the same question from a Man United perspective. You know, what the hell has gone wrong? This is a team that's dominated for a quarter of a century.
Yeah,
a big era.
To be honest, you can't really say there's much of a difference. Like, the Glazers coming in was the biggest turning point in all of that, because when they first came in, it was okay because we still had our structure in place. We still had certain people in charge, but as soon as Ferguson left, it all left with them. And then you had people that didn't really know football in charge of a football club.
Yeah.
Like I don't know why, but I've been saying it for a while now, but I do believe we need to have tests for these owners. Do they actually know how football works? Because the fact that we've got an owner who doesn't actually know the offside rule, he's come out and said he doesn't actually know what the offside rule is, and we're supposed to just take that as our owner of to be honest, the biggest football club in England at that time. Even and all we've really done since then is just used media, marketing. The fact that we had generated so much money for so many years has saved us to an extent, because we're able to buy certain players of a certain caliber to keep us still. Because if you're buying someone like Pogba or Zlatan, you're still gonna get some level of success.
Yeah.
But that's not going to be sustainable forever, because eventually you're going to get to a point where people don't really want to watch a team that's still failing. Like, we're gonna, as in, like, both Arsenal and United have this, could actually become Liverpool of the past 30 years, not really doing too much, literally basically hoping on scraps to win them Premier Leagues and Champions Leagues. Even the Champions League for Liverpool in 05, you can't say Liverpool was satisfied with that team. The fans weren't satisfied, and we're basically just we're living on a prayer. Basically, we're literally hoping that something will come good of whatever crap that we're given, which is not really going to work.
You both make really good points. In terms of adding it, you know, Sam, just from your point about not knowing offside rule, I haven't seen so much waffle come from ownership since the Venkies, who own Blackburn Rovers, who bought the club not knowing that relegation was a thing. You know, it's rubbish. It's almost a disgrace, really. You're gonna buy into a sport that you have no idea about, and okay, you can joke about the offside rule, but the American model, certainly when you look at the NFL, and I think it's probably worthwhile talking about the NFL, because you've got Stan Kroenke and you've got the Glazers, you know, Buccaneers and the Rams, if I'm not mistaken, and the way that the franchises are handled, these clubs, you know, these franchises, even in the NFL, they're guaranteed to make a ton of money every season. It doesn't matter if you're bottom of your division. You always make like 300 million. You know, you look at the top clubs in terms of wealth. You know, Dallas Cowboys are still one of the richest clubs in the world.
Yeah,
and they haven't won anything for a very, very long time. So I don't think they quite understand the correlation between, you know, perhaps the NFL model and perhaps football, because ultimately money and wealth is generated through success, and you can only get success really by being on the pitch. Now, I think Manchester United have hidden that part quite well with some good commercial deals, but your commercial deals are only lucrative if you're at the top. If you're becoming less relevant, that's going to just come smaller and smaller. And Arsenal have been a massive victim of that, which is actually what stunted you for a number of years. You couldn't maneuver anything. You couldn't make Emirates any more expensive because you're the most expensive already.
Mm-hmm.
Your sponsorships are becoming less and less to a point that it's like, well, that it is what it is. So you end up having to cull your squad. Who's the biggest owners? Who can we get out? And that doesn't generate success unless you've got a fantastic scout model, which by the looks of things, certainly up until this season, has been non-existent. And you could say the same thing about Manchester United. They spend so much money on people who just aren't necessarily worth it or have passed their point. So, Sam, you talk about marketability. Yeah, Schweinsteiger. You generally saw Ed Woodward get crazy excited. Schweinsteiger was busted at that point. But for the career that he has had, because he's an incredible footballer. But when he came to Manchester United, he was not the same player. And that's where you have the problems. But look, we could get really triggered by talking about these owners and talk for it fast. But I want to go back to the sort of genesis of Manchester United and Arsenal and the rivalry. Because I said, there's going to be a few people who weren't necessarily there. They've only heard so much, from perhaps Sky Sports and other media outlets. But I want to, from a fan point of view, I want to talk about that. So, Aussie, from your perspective, tell us a bit more about sort of glory Arsenal days and etc. Because for me, from a Man United fan, a fan from outside the club, I feel like it comes in two parts. I feel like you've kind of got the sort of George Graham days, and I feel like the defensive part, and then you got the Wenger and the flair that sort of came along with it.
See, I started in the George Graham days, so I was this far from being a Liverpool fan. God help me. And I was in a position with family watching Liverpool games, and then I stumbled upon Arsenal versus Liverpool in '92. Now I'm there supposed to be a Scouser, and I'm there watching Arsenal and falling in love with Arsenal. I actually fell in love with Arsenal after a 4-0 win. I watched Limpar score from halfway, and Ian Wright scored 2 goals, and that was it. Ian Wright had me. That was it. Every one of my home shirts has Ian Wright on it till this day. If you look at the jerseys behind me, I do not put any new names on them. I'm old school. And I watched it under George Graham. I watched the defensive way he played. And then, of course, with the situation that was and the scandal and blah, 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 George had to go. And we had Houston come in for a bit, and then we had Royk. And the only thing that Royk did was he got us Bergkamp, thankfully. That was thank you very much, mate. Look, the 15 minutes that you were there, you earned your money, mate. Well done, mate. And then, guys, Arsene Wenger came in, and I was like, and I'll be honest, who the fuck is this guy? Was what my reaction was. I was just like, this is going to be a joke. I didn't take him seriously. I thought this guy's another one, a nothing, and blah, blah, blah. But in the first season, I started to see what he was about, and we turned it around. We finished that season strong, and I seen us starting to challenge, starting to get a little bit more serious, and that's when the rivalry started between Man United and Arsenal, because both teams were going for glory, both teams were fighting for the same cup, and it was great to watch because it was a war, and this is what most people don't understand. When you watched Manchester United and Arsenal, and you knew the game was coming up, everyone had goosebumps. Because you were watching that game and you're wondering, who is going to put in the savage tackle first? Because that's what it's about. It's like, who's going to do it? Come on, we're waiting. And it would either be a Vieira, it'd be a Keane. A Keane would do it. He'd do it all day. And that would be it. And that would make the game. And you're on the edge of your seat. You didn't know if it was going to be argy-bargy. You didn't know if it was going to be a goal. You didn't know who was going to win. But it was entertainment. And I know a lot of people say you need to have the best players in the world to be entertained. No, what you need is 2 teams going for glory and throwing everything at it on the pitch. And that's what it was. And it was, I miss those days, man. I miss the days where United and Arsenal was stop everything. Every other game does not matter in the Premier League. It's United v Arsenal. And it doesn't matter which way it was. It could have been Arsenal, Highbury or Old Trafford. It was a war. And if anyone who hasn't seen that, go back. Trust me, go back, because those are times worth going back to. These times now, it ain't the same.
We had interestingly, we had a recent show, Past v Present, And I very much had that sentiment where it's like there's just a certain I'm going to become Wenger now, or Henri, je ne sais quoi about it. You know, it was just that intense passion, and it wasn't just like a passion merchant kind of thing. You had the skill elements. It was the full commitment. You had the whole package, and the proper fan experience along with it. Just felt like there was just more at stake, and actually it meant more to the players. I think that's probably the key difference.
Yeah.
If say Arsenal, well, recently Man United Arsenal played, were Arsenal Aubameyang's bloody liking bloody Ronaldo's pictures. That wouldn't have happened. That wouldn't have happened.
A picture of him winning the game.
It was and it was a shambles. Like I've been on Aubameyang. I've been screaming about Aubameyang not being captain for a while, but it's no longer important to players like you're saying. They're looking at it as if, oh, it's Ronaldo. He's a great player. You think Thierry Henry gave a shit, or Patrick Vieira gave any shit about any player in Man United? The only thing they thought about was, if you get onto one of my boys, I'm going to get you on the next one. You're going to get hurt because it's us against you. It's my lads. I don't same country, guys. You know, this is the thing. It's like, oh, we're countrymen. I don't care. This is United Arsenal. We're wearing different shirts here. It's a war. Yeah. Nowadays, it's all friendly. It's all civilized. And I'm like, it's too nice.
Yeah,
it's too nice. The two teams face each other.
There is I don't want to sort of go too much on this point, but there is a certain irony that you probably found, and you hit the nail on the head. I don't care who you are, when you're wearing the same shirt, that's it. Whereas, as I say, nowadays, which is arguably more accepting than the 90s and perhaps early noughties, it is a bit more like, friendly. You got my fellow countrymen, and it's all these cliques in the same team. You're thinking, what the hell? Like, no, it's all for one for all sort of attitude. Like, no, it is a bit odd. It is a bit odd.
Yeah. But also, do you know what I think that's kind of down to? I think that's kind of down to the money that's in football, because a lot of these players that go to these clubs are not going because they love the club.
Yeah,
they're going because they're getting a good paycheck, and like, because you still see it with certain players that, like, if you go to basically the whole Liverpool team, each one of them are willing to die for the club.
Yes.
And like, these aren't, then like, some of them, yes, they do earn high wages, but they've actually earned these wages, and they didn't come in on like big expensive contracts and were like, I'm like this big superstar. They literally come in and like, I'm willing to play for this club because I want to prove something. I think that's been a big issue. There's been a lot of players recently that have gone to, especially like someone like Aubameyang, no offense to him, but he didn't really go to Arsenal because he wanted to be there. He pretty much went to Arsenal because he wanted to get away from Dortmund, and Arsenal was the main option available.
To me, to even add to that, is he making such bloody good points here. I feel the managers had also more control than they do now. You know, you think about Manchester United and Ferguson, you felt like this guy handpicked these people. It's like they've got the right attitude, they're in. Wenger, I felt in the early days, had more control over that. And as football's got more and more commercial, I feel like that control's perhaps gone away. Maybe there's some stubbornness with Wenger, potentially, and we'll explore that later on. But certainly compared to nowadays, it's not handpicked. It's like, who's available? Who can we get because we need to get out of a situation now? And it's a completely different thing. From my perspective, and touching upon when Wenger joined the Prem, Wenger's very idealistic, isn't he, when it comes to his approach to football? And before he even got in, got in the door, he was already calling out certain things in the Premier League, which pissed off Fergie a lot. I think Fergie wanted extensions so they can do more competitions, and basically Wenger was like, why are we doing these? Why are we making these rule changes so Man United can win everything? And instantly they got Fergie's back up. But Wenger, I know there's a lot of talk, because he came from Japanese league at that point, but he did come from Monaco before that, and the science, I think, it's when you think about Wenger in those days, you think about the science behind it. He was so far ahead in terms of where the Premier League, they were still going to the pub. This guy, the fitness, the diet, everything was just absolutely on point. So he was a breath of fresh air in that respect. And I think even though Ferg was like, "Who's this guy? He's come from Japan. He don't know what English football's like. He should shut his mouth," kind of thing. You could feel it sort of starting to simmer. And I said, as the football's improved, Fergie's all about the mind games. He tries to do it to everybody who comes in. And Wenger's very, very, he's very Wenger, isn't he? He's very stubborn. So neither of them are going to back down at this point. And if you're buying players who are very much, in your image, you're going to get very stubborn players on one end, and you're going to get very pig-minded players on the other. Yeah. So it was a recipe. Well, in this case, for success, because it was great entertainment, but absolute disaster for everybody else.
Who cares about everyone else? But that's the thing. It was
absolutely.
It was like, look at those other teams, mate. Like, in the end, we just all want. It was always going to be either United or Arsenal at that time. Every other team knew they were just there to just watch. Every team knew that in the Premier League, if you're around in the 90s. It's like first and second place is going to be Arsenal. Who's going to be third? It's going to be United or Arsenal first and second. Who's going in for third? Because you aren't coming for first and second. You don't even try that,
So because we were just talking before, and you touched upon sort of the late 2000s was kind of when you started sort of picking up football. So this is the thing. I kind of feel like that's where that rivalry that basically just dissipated, isn't it? It was kind of non-existent at that point. So from your perspective, perhaps kind of coming after the fact, what was it for you? Was it just a sort of a legacy thing, a myth, a legend? What was it?
So because I actually live in an Arsenal household, like lots of my family are Arsenal fans. So like growing up, I would actually watch a lot of like they'll say, "Oh, we're watching Arsenal now." Everyone would be quiet because they're watching Arsenal. And like the game that they would always look at is when they're facing United. They didn't even care about anything else. They were like, we have to beat United or else the season is over. Like people would actually get mad and start like throwing things because they've conceded a goal or someone's putting a bad tackle. But I think what happened was, especially with the introduction of Jose Mourinho, that guy kind of came in and disrupted everything that was going on. And I think like the fact that he just instantly came in and basically forced his way at the top was just with this completely new style of football that basically nullified everything else. I think from that point on, there was a struggle for Arsenal to adapt further. So for when I started supporting United, I was mainly seeing Arsenal. Yes, they were always kind of like they would always start off seasons quite good. I remember them starting off quite strong, and then towards the back end, they would just literally just fall apart completely, and they wouldn't be able to handle it.
Yeah,
and like you had lots of comments from Jose about certain players, and like he'll definitely Jose loves to have his jabs at Wenger, loves to have his jabs at players, and I think like maybe Wenger couldn't quite handle Jose and the way he was, and like I think Ferguson was having his own issues because of a rebuild, and I think there was just when we got, because Ferguson's very good at adapting. I think that's his main biggest attribute. He's good at adapting to to like a new challenge. As he's done that many times previously. He was able to adapt and get in. Obviously, new coaches, new style of football, completely changed everything up to basically match Jose. So growing up, mainly was watching Arsenal kind of fade away, to be honest, and watching them kind of be bullied by Chelsea and
Sam. The thing I want to know, and this might have to be a separate uncomfortable truth show. So a Man United fan in a whole in an Arsenal family home, like how did that happen?
What
happened was at an early age he was dropped on his head. And
no.
The doctor just says you're special. Yeah.
So really what kind of happened was actually my cousin was a big United fan. He was probably the only guy that was a United fan, because we also had some Chelsea fans as well. You know the kind of Chelsea fans that only really existed from 2004. So they didn't really like know about Chelsea.
Yeah, the
the
ex-league
new age
supporters.
ones. Yeah.
They do exist,
So,
unfortunately.
So then
once upon a time it was Leeds, now it's Chelsea. Yeah, I know that fans.
Yeah,
Chelsea fans.
So like he was like, I think he preyed on the fact that one of my favorite players in the world like was David Beckham. I was really obsessed with David Beckham and like his free kicks. Granted, by that at that point he wasn't playing for United. He'd been long gone. He was at
I think it was LA Galaxy at that point.
Like he was long gone, but I just remember him like I literally remember seeing clips of his of his free kicks, of like of just his like the way he would cross. I was like, oh, this guy is amazing. And then then he went, oh, you know, he supported United. He actually played for United. I was like, oh, really? And it's like, and told me about all the like his basically him being the golden boy, 99, showed me the two corners, and I basically had a complete freak out. And then I just started supporting United. And then from that point on, just went on.
Well, you touched upon a classic player in Bex, and Bex is one of my favorite players of all time at Man United. Just a certain something about him, and his set pieces, but he was just an incredible footballer, all the same. But Aussie, you touched upon Ian Wright, and I got to say, from your conversation about watching Liverpool and Arsenal, I'm glad out of the two, I'm actually glad you picked the Arsenal. Like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure we're having this conversation.
No, so am I, mate. Yeah. No, I just look, nothing against Liverpool supporters. I don't mind the team, but I'm sorry, it's just never going to happen.
I have a lot against the supporters personally. I have a lot against them.
Personally, I say Sodom. But you picked on Ian Wright, and I got to say, Ian Wright, he is a classic player. I think, irrespective, maybe the hard Tottenham fans or hardened Tottenham fans, a lot of people outside of Arsenal love Ian Wright. It's just that character, isn't it? He is a proper character, that charisma, great finish. Like, think of how late he came into Arsenal as well, and the amount of goals he scored. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. But what other players were there for you?
Okay, like for me, Tony Adams. Most people don't rate Tony Adams for too much, but as a leader, he was in charge of that squad from back to front, and he kept our shape so well. I'd say Tony Adams. I'd say players like Ray Parlour. Great player. The work that he did on the ball was phenomenal. No one gives him credit for the work that he's ever done. But we are going to get into our Bergkamp. We are going to get into Patrick Vieira and Henry, of course. There've been so many, but I look at Bergkamp, I look at Vieira, and I look at Henry coming in later. So like 97, I think it was Vieira, it was Bergkamp first, of course, with Roy, and then 97, 96 when Wenger came in, he said, "Here's Patrick Vieira," who no one knew who he was, and then we got Thierry Henry.
Yeah,
that sort of partnership for Arsenal, and those three players were key. And I look at those players, and I look at the things that they did back then. Like, seriously, you remember that goal Henry scored on Fabien Barthez? Do you remember that? Have you guys ever seen that?
Yeah,
do you remember that?
Yeah.
He's got a defender onto him. He's back turned. No one's expecting this shit. I was watching the game and thinking he's gonna pass the ball, and he's just gone flick, Merry Christmas, and Barthez off his line. And I've just gone.
I've deleted it from my brain. That's why I'm actually stuttering for once. You don't hear that often, but I'm deleting that one.
I watched that back recently, and
how
it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
I was watching the game, and I was like, "The fuck just happened here?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "You got to be kidding me! Like, no goalkeeper in the world." These players, they were key to Arsenal's success. Ian Wright. Key to Arsenal's success when George Graham was around.
Yeah.
And of course they all played for Arsenal, but they all played for Arsenal. They didn't play just for themselves. They really played for Arsenal, and that's what made them heroes. That's what made them. That's what gave them statues. That's what gave them a cult following.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with players nowadays, is that they're not going to get a cult following because none of them are playing for that. Just like your players, none of them are playing for that. And yeah, man. I mean, Ian Wright for me. Fucking Ian Wright in those 90s.
Aussie, as you're there, right? And I don't think I'll ever be able to ask this question any other time. What are your thoughts on Nicolas Anelka? Because this guy was an incredible talent, but kind of sulky with it.
Yeah, he was.
But he did do some things for Arsenal. So what's your perspective on him?
See, the thing is, Nicolas Anelka was the start of a trend that we're seeing now. Nicolas Anelka was the start of that. I'm a great player and I'm going to whinge and I want the club to bend, right? See, nowadays clubs are bending for these players. Back then it was like, oh, you don't want to be part of the club? Sorry, but I'm going to do that. Off you go. And Anelka was doing bits for Arsenal. I'm not going to knock him. He was a great player. But he had to play for this first. He had to man up. You're playing for Arsenal Football Club here. You're not playing for Nicolas Anelka. Who are you? Yeah. Who's Paul Pogba? You know what I mean? Who's Paul Pogba? Who's Sancho? Yeah. Who's ESR? They're nobody without their clubs. No one. Yeah. And that's who makes them. And so Nicolas Anelka, from my standpoint at that time, when he was whinging and carrying on, I was one of those fans saying, out, get him out now. He shouldn't even be on the pitch. I don't care how many goals. Sit him on his ass. I've had enough. And I believe I'm still like that now. If you don't want to be here, if you don't want to play for this club, because I don't support a player. I love Ian Wright. Ian Wright finished up from Arsenal. Where did he go? He went to West Ham. I loved Ian Wright. I watched him at West Ham. I didn't even start following West Ham. I watched him because I loved Wright, but I continued to follow Arsenal. And when Arsenal played West Ham, we all know what colours I was wearing and who I was wearing. I was saying, hack him, take him out. He's one of my boys, but you got to take him out. As a supporter, you support the club. As a player, you play for the club. And then when you keep playing for the club, then everybody will remember the name on the back of the shirt. And Nicolas Anelka was the start of this bad trend, unfortunately, and it's continued. A great player, but yeah.
I'm gonna see if you can remember this one, Aussie. Van Hooijdonk, Nottingham Forest. He went on. He was one of the first players that I remember to go on a strike. Because he wasn't necessarily having his way, and it actually ended up with I want to say Atkinson. Well, Atkinson is the manager, but he ended up getting the manager sacked. And for me, that felt like a really dangerous trend in terms of what you probably see today, where you get a few players who are against the manager, and next it's gone. Chelsea are brilliant at doing that.
They do that really well.
Let's not forget the best, where for years one man dictated every transfer and every manager. Barcelona and Messi. He literally controlled the whole club through purely his own playing ability.
Ransom, he held that team at ransom.
Yeah. So for me, because this is my era really, so I feel like it's a missed opportunity if I don't talk about it. But you look at your defense. So my first, so you had people like Sparky, Mark Hughes. He was good, but he then quickly went to sort of Chelsea quite soon after. So that kind of stopped. But you had your Cantonas, like this guy was just again. You just had to be there to see it. Like people nowadays will see all the funny comments and the sort of mystique about him, but on the pitch, the swagger, the arrogance. You back in the day, you wanted a shirt with a collar. Yeah, so you could just turn it up.
You wanted to put it up.
Like this guy, and you wanted to just emulate him. Like it was just mad. He could carry a team, and look, that Manchester United team were good anyway. But the way that he was just there for every big moment, it was absolutely scary. He was such an incredible player. And then you had Ryan Giggs. Now back it, King of the wing. I'm a left foot. I used to play on the wing, and he was literally that first player that I kind of wanted to just try and you see he's dribbling, so you try to dribble in, probably not so good now compared to when I was a kid, but that's something like that. Yeah, I think from playing like 20 hours a day, literally, to like barely once a week, probably that probably doesn't help either.
Rust.
But you see his that intent, that drive. And I don't think a lot of people, I see a lot of younger fans go, "Oh, Giggs, he's a longevity merchant." No.
You guys know what I think of Giggs. You saw what I put up. So Giggs was a great player on that right hand side. I remember playing you guys. That was one player I'd look at and say, "That's one player I rate." Cantona. Look, anybody who was anybody knew Cantona and his capability. Cantona for you guys was Bergkamp for us, and that's no shit. Because Cantona could pull a rabbit out of a hat, like literally. He could, like, you couldn't give him too much space. The confidence and the quality behind him. If you gave him too much space, you're in trouble. If it's not a pass, he's going for goal. And if he's going for goal, he's not going for shits and giggles. He's gonna go on target. Your goalkeeper better be on his game, because if he ain't, it's in the back of the net. And I think the younger fans now, of course, they're going to look at these guys and go, "Oh, yeah, they couldn't." You know what? I don't know if you've heard this before. I don't think those guys could do that now.
Ridiculous.
Your defenders couldn't handle these guys now. They were taking on real defenders and pulling that shit off. Your defenders now are made from toothpicks. They'd have a field day with your lot.
I'm just thinking, imagine like Bergkamp against Maguire now. It would just be absolutely.
Oh my lord!
You remember that Newcastle goal? He'd be doing that 4 or 5 times a game, and Maguire wouldn't be fucking adapting to it. It just keep happening, mate.
Oh, don't you just remind me of modern times again. But you had these players, and they were just incredible. You could go through every position, and talk about it. Like, you could easily talk about Scholes for a long period of time. But is that where perhaps things have gone wrong? For Man United and Arsenal. It was a great chat talking about sort of that period, but has that nostalgia kind of killed both clubs? It's like you're chasing something that's no longer there and trying to recreate that formula in a different. It's a different time now, different circumstances.
I reckon. I hate to say this. I think our owners took advantage of that. I think our owners took advantage of all of us and said, "We'll buy the club for the nostalgia and the vibe and the feel, and we'll take them for a ride for as long as we can." And I know it sounds horrible, but it's true. And so we all fell in with nostalgia and the classic Man United and the classic Arsenal. So it didn't matter what Kronke did or the Glazers did. We were all there because we thought we'll get there eventually, right?
Yeah.
Just hope that kills you.
And that was the hope. They used it on us. And now we're looking at where we are. Fighting for top 4. And remember, Arsenal are in top 4. Oh, you guys just played for top 4. What a joke. And guess what? Look where we are now, both of us. Seriously, can you believe it? Arsenal and United are fighting for top 4. Not for the Premier League. Top 4, guys.
Not even fighting top 4 at times. It's like top 6.
Sometimes we're fighting just to be in Europe, which is...
God, Europa League is like something... Europa League. Sorry to do this, but... Europa League for Arsenal and United was like, you're kidding me, we're in that? We didn't rate it. Let's be honest, man. United, if we're not in Champions League, everything else is bullshit. Look where we are. And that did cost us. So now we look at ourselves and we go back to nostalgia because we have to stick with that. Our owners took advantage of us and wore that out as far as they can. Now we're looking for success where we are, right? Right now, today. And we've got owners that don't know the football game. We had managers who are young and inexperienced, but were given the jobs by the owners. And so that's I think that's cost us. I mean, and I think it's going to continue to cost us because unfortunately, the owners are the guys who are handing out the paychecks and are handing out the contracts and saying, "Okay, I want you."
Yeah.
And as long as the Glazers and as long as Kronke holds on to Arsenal, I don't think we're going to be in the mix between Manchester City, Chelsea, and I don't know, Liverpool for now. Yeah. Mainly because these guys, Manchester City win the Premier League not for the money, for the clout, and their owner doesn't need the money. Chelsea go for trophies for the same reasons. We want trophies. I don't need the money.
Yeah.
It's bragging
Kronke and the
rights.
Glazers. Yeah, it's it. Kronke and the Glazers, you know what they go for? Your jersey, my jersey, asses on seats, sponsorship, money, money, money. And you know what? If we get top 4 and we get Champions League, more money. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's not about winning a Champions League. It's qualifying. And it's going to continue, guys. I hate to say it. It's going to continue. It's not going to change.
Do you, and I do see a theme here with the ownership. Do you think the media, and I'm not going to name any particular TV companies at this point, but do you think the media have helped? I don't want to kill myself just yet.
No, we're only just starting now. Yeah, we've.
No, the thing for me, I want to talk about the media, because when we grew up, Aussie, watching football, it didn't matter what the trophy was, it was deemed a success. FA Cup was celebrated. A League Cup was celebrated. You touched upon Europa League not being, but when it was UEFA Cup and when you had Cup Winners' Cup, they were taken seriously. Both teams won in the early 90s with Cup Winners' Cup and were celebrated. And nowadays, it's all about top four. The FA Cup has got watered down so much to the point that now people are calling it a Mickey Mouse trophy, which I think is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Because for me, how on earth, right? And I've had this conversation with many fans, and then all of a sudden Jinky's the old man in the corner of the pub, bumbling away, mumbling to himself. You know what I mean? But the fact is, winning an FA Cup final is a million times better than finishing 4th. Because it's a bloody moment. You know what I mean? You've been there, you've seen it. You could probably tell me who scored that goal. I can't tell you fucking shit about who scored the key goal to finish 4th or anything like that. Remember the celebrations, and this always sticks in my mind, the celebrations that your boys did at St. James's Park. I think it was to get ahead of Spurs, actually, to finish 4th. And I'm just thinking... Football's changed. It's changed because you probably celebrated that harder than an FA Cup. And Arsenal's tradition in the FA Cup is pretty mad. Like it's very, very good. Yeah.
We've always done well.
So go back to the sort of the question. Do you think the media have also perhaps killed that? Because if these other trophies like the FA Cup were seen as big, would Arsenal be considered a sort of banter club? You always hear the term, but actually they've won quite a number of FA Cups since then.
So the thing is, the FA Cup, I think, and the League Cup, the reason why they get watered down is because, and again, I'm going back to this, is because of the cash.
Yeah.
It's because of that. It's like, they won the FA Cup, and what does that bring them? It brings us the bloody FA Cup, which has been around for a lot longer than anyone that's been in the media right now. Okay. And unfortunately, we're going back to nostalgia. We look at that cup and we respect it. I respect the FA Cup. Yeah. We'd win the FA Cup, and it was like, yeah, man. But now it's like, they don't make much money from the FA Cup. The big money's in Champions League. The big money's in the Premier League. Well, I'm not winning the Premier League for the money. Keep the bloody money. I'll take the trophy bar. I'll take that. I'll take that trophy all day. You can keep the cash. Yeah. But the media, the owners, and all that, they're all looking for the dollars and cents. So they look at dollars and cents, like I said, Premier League, dollars and cents, Champions League. And if there's a new competition we're trying to start, it would have been full dollars and cents, NFL style, and then that would have been hyped up by the media anyway. And I think the media is following the trend. The trends that are setting now for the younger generation, where they only look at two things. They only look at Premier League, Champions League, and they got to be successful. When they're going to go for a club, that's what they want. They want a club that wins a Champions League, that wins a Premier League, and they're constantly successful. And they don't care about the club's history. They don't care about nothing else. And the media helps portray that. And the media is fueling that. So the fans that are coming out now aren't looking at the FA Cup and the League Cup or looking at the team previously. They're looking at, what have you done for me right now? They look at the team like they look at one of these.
Yeah.
Every couple of years, I need a new one of these. And that's what they're doing. They're plastic fans. And that's media is helping that. And they're helping it to continue to happen. It won't change. It won't.
Yeah.
It's pathetic.
The horse has bolted. It has bolted. And I'm gonna stick my neck out and recently we were all pretty pissed off with the ESL and the attempts that were made. But when you looked at certain elements in the media being very vocal about it, and then when it stopped, and we're like, yeah, football's won, the fans have won, and then you see a £3 billion deal locked in straight away, and you're thinking, all it was is just that the other side were worried that they weren't going to get money. Yeah, and that's the thing that just bugs me. You know what I mean? It's just, it's poor. But as I said, I remember in my day, I remember, but the FA Cup was it was a day. It was a day. You'd have to get times where there's a TV guide and it's like FA Cup day, and in the UK you'd have literally, well, you'd have your kids' TV shows talking about it, and then you have grandstand, and then they do all the, you'd have bloody football teams doing songs, for Christ's sake. No, I'm not saying that actually the songs will be better now compared to back then, but it was a proper tradition, and it was just full coverage. And if your team won the FA Cup, I'll tell you what, you're watching that throughout the whole day and night. You watch it live, then you're going to watch it again afterwards, like for the little mini highlights, and then you wait for match of the day, and you're going to watch it again. And then you don't get that anymore. It's kind of a case of like, it's like going to a cinema. It's like, so what is it? 3 o'clock? Right, 2 hours done. I'm out. Cool. I might tweet a few things about it afterwards.
Yeah. There's no celebration. There's no going to the pub. There's no sitting there and rubbing it into people's faces and not wearing it thin. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, more success. Next. It's our society has become we'll throw away. We get something and it might be great. We use it for 2 seconds and we throw it away. And I think Manchester United and Arsenal, unfortunately, have been tossed aside, mainly because we're not giving anyone a fix straight away. We're not doing that. Yeah. Here you go. Here's Premier League. Here we go. Here's Champions League. Here's that awesome signing that you wanted. You know what I mean?
Taking the success for granted, the success that two fantastic managers had built in very different ways. And as I said, like just going back before we sort of kind of go forward in the aftermath of it. We touched upon the George Graham days, the Arsenal back five, if you include the goalkeeper, the offside trap, the Tony Adams and everything like that. You had those guys for such a long period of time, and then that kind of left Wenger to do what he was probably good at. And they said, you get these little players here, you get your Perez. I know you got your Bray Powers and everything like that, but your Vieiras, your Omris, you can tweak it, your Lundbergs.
Yeah. He had a great back line. He had Lee Dixon. He had Tony Adams. He had Martin Keown. He had David Seaman in goal. He had a defensive line that was set up already. He had to play with midfield and up front. That was it. Yeah. And he was laughing. And you know what? The other thing he had guys committed. He had a squad that was committed to the cause. And if you have all that, you have the older heads, and they go for as long as they did, then you're going to have success. It's just where to after them. Where to from there?
Was that his downfall? Do you think with Wenger? Like Wenger's probably a very good. When you look at actually all the signings that he's got, a lot of the talent are midfielders onwards. Yeah. When the defenders like was it Adams? He retired 2002,
2002. Before the
and once they started to go year by year, they just couldn't. I accept they couldn't be replaced, but you couldn't. Like they were just getting softer defenders every time, and it seemed to be getting worse and worse.
But Zigan and Sendros, those signings came in as replacements.
But even like I think with Wenger, I think there was a whole, because I think people say, "Oh, it wasn't really his fault. It was fully the Kronke's." I kind of think he had his part to play. Because I felt the reason why he was going to buy more, even then he was still buying more midfielders, he was still buying more attackers. To an extent, did Arsenal really need that kind of level of attacker? Maybe not, but still trying and buy like a new young player and try and bring them through and sell them off. I think because of this self-sustaining model that they were trying to implement, that he was talking about so much. And because you're going to make the most money off of forwards and midfielders. You won't make as much with centre backs, with fullbacks, or with a keeper. I think he knew that to make the most profit, he would have to buy certain types of players. And then, like, if you look at Samin Nasri, that's a big example. Like, Samin Nasri is a great player. Obviously, I think it was quite clear to see he had a bad attitude. He even showed it when he went to Man City. But I think he was literally brought in purely because he knew there was a good profit to be made once he sold on. I think that was ultimately what I believe was one of the biggest downfalls of Arsenal, was that it wasn't Arsenal also, that Arsene Wenger also became money orientated. And I think he kind of himself lost a bit of that kind of passion he once had. I think maybe he felt like he'd achieved enough. I don't really know on his side of things, but I think he just kind of bent to what he saw around him, what was happening. I was like, okay, I'm not going to try and fight it. I'm just going to try and egg it on, which I don't think many Arsenal fans are willing to really like admit that Arsene Wenger was a big part of the problem at Arsenal.
Well,
Aussie, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, at the end of it, I can see Arsene Wenger and his recruitment. It was a bit how you're going at the end of it. But think about this, right? We started selling off and culling off players and big players when Emirates was born. Now, of course, he dived in and, self-sustaining model and all that. Yeah, I think he shot himself in the foot. He did. He did it for the club. He was sitting there thinking to himself, this is going to take Arsenal to the next, to the next era. We're going to be as big as Bayern Munich eventually and blah, 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 once we get out of debt and all that. So he played his part. But I think he was used. I think he didn't realize he was being used by the club. He was being used by the Kronkes in the background on the board. And a lot of people stand and say, he lost his way. No, he didn't lose his way. If I'd have given Arsene Wenger, if I was the owner and said to Arsene Wenger, here's 200 million, go spend it wisely. Don't worry about profits. We all know right now Arsene Wenger would have gone out there and recruited. Now, defensively, I don't think he did the best job, but don't forget, he did get us a Sol Campbell. He did get us Laurent. Cashley Cole did come through from the ranks. He was good too. But I think Arsene Wenger, he lost his way when, of course, he jumped into the self-sustaining model and the belief that he was doing the right thing by the club. But he thought he could see a light at the end of the tunnel, that when it's all said and done, we're going to get back to our former glory. He didn't realize that we would end up where we are now as a cash cow. So in defense for Arsene Wenger, I say, I don't think his time was up. I think he was worn out. I think his passion was gone because he realized in the end, all these years I've been used. I could have had six. I could have had, if I had have given him trouble, maybe I could have had my way and brought success back to Arsenal, because I know he thinks that. And I know that if he had have pushed the owners, let's be honest, if he had said, no, I'm not playing this game, and if he had said, I'm leaving, let's be honest, not one of them there is a football head anymore. By the time 2011 came along, who's left? Steve Bold. You know what I mean? Like, there was no one. So they're like, Arsene Wenger's leaving. Oh, we got to make him happy. So they would have bent. And he probably thinks of, I honestly think to himself, he probably goes, if he had pushed a bit, he could have had his way. But I think he was taken advantage of. I really do.
Yeah, I think with Wenger towards the time that you guys were talking about, classic case of nice guys finish last.
Yeah.
And playing FFP and being so diligent about it, whilst Man City Chelsea, did we break it? Oh, my bad. We'll pay the fine.
They didn't even get a fine. They fought it and won, didn't they?
No, they paid the fine. They were they went from being banned for 2 years to just basically
paying a fine.
Paying change from the back of a sofa, as far as they're concerned. But when I look at the sort of the gradual fall of Manchester United, because we can talk about glazers. Mm-hmm. We could probably do 5 separate shows and equally with Arsenal and the Kronke ownership. Mm-hmm. When David Moyes came in, the chosen one, and you saw mistakes being made straight away. Now, one of those mistakes, and this is another issue that Manchester United hierarchy have, is that once they've made one mistake, they don't want to kind of go back to that same type of scenario again and try it out again. It's like, that's done, for good. So Moyes got rid of all the backroom staff.
Yeah, all of them.
You know, there were so many changes at Manchester United. Don't forget, not only did Sir Alex Ferguson leave, David Gill left, and David Gill was a huge part of that. Certainly when it came to the transfer, you know, this guy's got clout when it comes to, you know, talking to other clubs in Europe.
Yeah.
So both of them were gone. You then had Ed Woodward come in, who is a financier at best. You know, don't get me wrong, commercial side, brilliant. He's a banker. You know, where's the football knowledge and negotiations of that? So he was new. David Moyes has gone from Everton, who, you know, did a good job at Everton, but doing a good job at Everton and doing a good job at Man United are two different things. And then you got rid of all your backroom staff, and it kind of felt to me there was two problems with David Moyes. One, he was pleased to be there. You know, I always like to use his when he signed, you know, because that sort of smile on his face is like, it could be on it's like David Brent or something like that, and you're thinking, Jesus, dude, like, be serious about this, like, you know. But then he almost kind of, it felt like he had a bit of a it's like small man syndrome for it. And I know it sounds a bit harsh, but you know, look at who he fell out with. He fell out with Van Persie, he fell out with Vidic, Ferdinand. Everyone wasn't particularly great. All the senior players that could have essentially protected him if he didn't try to change too much too soon. And then he could have gradually phased them out. But it was just too much change in quick succession. So, yes, United had an Asian squad, but they still were league champions.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to fight for this guy. They just didn't want to fight for him. And when people started to see Old Trafford, because it was a fortress, and I think after, during Moyes and afterwards, it's become a tent in a fucking festival now. It really is. Like, you know, it's wrecked now. It's absolutely wrecked. People look forward to it, and I don't think that's particularly helped. But then when you look at the Manchester United hierarchy, there's no continuity. Like, so I can criticize Chelsea for all their hiring and firing, but you can almost see the continuity of a lot of the managers. With Manchester United, they went from David Moyes, who had that very direct, quite steely way of playing with Everton.
Yeah.
Then who'd you get after? You got Louis van Gaal. Dutch possession-based football. What the hell?
Basically a philosopher.
Yeah, and then from Louis van Gaal, you go to Jose Mourinho, who's nothing like Louis van Gaal. And not only that, you spent about £300 million on all these players who were supposed to be Louis van Gaal players, and then you get in Mourinho. And then Mourinho's like, well, I don't want these players, so I'm going to spend another £300 million to undo your £300 million mistake, and then just keep repeating the cycle. So at this point, for me, as a United fan, I'm kind of a bit jaded at this moment in time, because I keep seeing the same patterns coming time after time after time. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer comes in, you know, Mourinho goes, oh, we need somebody who understands the club. We've had Van Gaal, we have Mourinho. Yeah. They don't know Manchester United, so they got in Solskjaer. And they then spent another £300 million to get Solskjaer players. Do you know what I mean? And when you just keep and it's the hierarchy who makes these decisions, but it's like they just have no idea in terms of the impact of getting all these completely different managers on these players. And these players must be confused. They must have an identity crisis at this point, because they ain't gonna like, a coach comes in every 2 years and wants to play something completely different. And we've got to look. Rangnick, this guy's supposed to be Gegenpress and all that crap and everything like that. Well, okay, great. That's another different type of football now. So
completely different. And then he's only staying for 6 months. We're gonna get a new person who could be completely different.
I don't think he'll be only staying for 6 months, guys. I think he'll be around for a while.
Yeah.
You guys have been saying to get rid of this guy. You guys have been saying to get rid of this guy. He's going to turn a lot of things around for you guys. He will.
Yeah.
And touching on the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer thing, I think his build has probably been one of the best builds.
Yeah,
I think his build right now, with the squad you have now, in comparison to those those last idiots that you had, and Mourinho being the number one fool, because I fucking hate him. He's a fucking dog. He's a mongrel, that guy. He's just doesn't matter how many trophies doesn't matter how many trophies he wins. He's not going to be accepted by anyone.
He got to you, didn't he? He got to you, Mourinho.
Oh, mate. I'm the kind of guy that would walk up to Jose Mourinho like I want a fucking autograph, but I'd shake his hand real firm. You know what I mean? How you going? All right. Yeah. What do you got to say about Wenger now? Huh? What now? Well, I'm crunching stuff. But anyway, I think Solskjaer, the players that he's got for you guys now, you've got a decent squad. Let's be honest. You've got depth across the park. Defensively, I mean, not using Eric by, I don't know why, but anyway, won't go there. And some of the defenders that you did have, not using them sometimes, it kind of shit me. I was thinking, that's good for an Arsenal perspective. You keep using Maguire and you keep using the same defenders. Fine, keep using Luke Shaw. This is great. But I looked at what you had on the bench and I'm like, all it takes is one person to come in, get rid of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and he's got the squad. So I think that he did do something good at Man United. He got you guys the right players. Now you've got Ragnick in there and he's laughing. He's sitting there fucking playing with these guys like it's FIFA. He can do anything he wants, and you got a squad of players that are capable now. Previously, I don't know. Previously, I used to look at your squads and say, no, I wasn't convinced. I mean, the only player in your squad right now that's no longer in your squad is Paul Pogba, which was the weak link, and he's not there anymore. Under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he was played constantly. I loved it, and then eventually he put him on his ass. Ragnick, I think he's looking at the players that are doing the best job. Look at Sancho since Ragnick's come in. Sancho has turned back on again. And Sancho has been playing some good football. And when he got an opportunity, Ragnick comes in and now everyone's forgot about Mason Greenwood. Who's Greenwood again? He's a great player. I still rate Greenwood. But look at Sancho doing bits. So you guys have got a squad now. I think Man United fans can look at your squad and say, we just need leadership now. And I think Ragnick's going to be the one to actually put your team together. This season is not written off. But I think you guys have got a light at the end of the tunnel. It's just who they bring in. Now you got Ragnick here. Imagine if they bring in a Jose Mourinho, and Ragnick's style is completely different, and the two clash. It's like pointless to do all this shit. You know?
But that's my worry, and this is why there's a lot of people after that Crystal Palace game who says everything's transformed. Fred's transformed, Man United's transformed. They look like they've got some order now, and I'm thinking, hang on, slow down. Let's actually wait to the end of the season. Let's see some key decisions first. And then...
it's still of course this word probably jars a lot of United fans, but it is a process. Because
that jars me the most.
But the thing is, this time it's natural process that actually makes a bit more sense. Because there is someone that is coming in to obviously just stabilize like a bit of just like, because I think the mess that was after Oli left was a more it wasn't like Jose. After Jose left, everything was a mess.
Backline, midfield,
like everything was like the players weren't happy. They didn't want to play football anymore. Like we had a squad of players that did not want to play football. I think now we have a squad that's a lot happier, a lot better. And I think because he's not immediately leaving completely, he's gonna be there as a consultant. I think that's actually gonna obviously depend on who he brings in, but at least we're going to know that there's a sense of continuity with who he's bringing in. Because he's obviously, likelihood is he will choose the next manager, and think he's going to choose someone with a similar ideology and philosophy of football to him, and then it's going to continue going on.
With regards to Arsenal, because we've talked about United in depth. I always kind of look at it from my standpoint is there was a bit of a weird divide with Wenger, but what happened. A long-term manager had left, and it's a big hole. That was then filled with Emery, who, to be honest, where I kind of felt like there was a number of things that didn't help. He wasn't fashionable. I don't think he was an incompetent manager. He just wasn't fashionable. I think he did actually well under the circumstances with the squad that he had. He maintained, and I always say this to Arsenal fans: look at how United were to when Fergie left to when Moyes left, so from 1st to 7th, and then you look at when Wenger left to when Emery took over, 5th to 5th. So he's maintained. So I'm not saying that's success, and we should be celebrating getting fireworks out, but I don't think it's a reason to start chasing a manager out of the club. I think to be able to maintain what a guy who's basically been a massive shadow in your club for 20 years, is such a big presence to maintain what he did. I think it's a good solid start. You had some. I'm not being funny, but you had people like Xhaka who
he's still there.
But he takes the piss. He takes the piss in the fact that yes, he'll have those games. If you had Xhaka that played for Switzerland, you'd have a hell of a player.
Oh, yeah,
but you don't. You
definitely.
get this clown who seems to always get sent off at key times for yourselves, and it always seems to be individual mistakes
Yeah.
that cost Emery as opposed to his tactics and everything like that. He might be a bit too pragmatic when it comes to the second half of games and this and that, but I didn't see him getting ripped apart that often. And it kind of felt like with Arsenal fans, it's like you kind of forgot the position that you're in. You're thinking because you're getting it, because Wenger's finally gone, you're now free and you can start challenging for the league again. It's like, no, that's not going to happen that way.
We didn't have the squad.
No, and then Arteta comes in, and I feel like with Arteta, it's the same problems. You know what I mean? He's still got the same people in the club. The only thing I will say is that he's probably been a bit smarter and a bit more frugal with the money part of it. Now, I know you could probably counter that saying, well, hang on, Ben White was this money, Ramsdale was this money. But look, when you're going and looking at Tomiyasu, what's a signing that is?
18 million euro. 18 million euro from Bologna. 18 million from
What
Bologna.
a signing.
Nuno Tavares.
I know there's certain players that you're getting, and actually the age of them as well. You got to look into and Ben White. Whilst you've got Gabriel there, who I do think is a solid defender, it's a good supplement. And then I've got to say Ramsdale is probably one of the few players I've generally had to do a 180 on, because I was laughing at it, not because of the fee, because I actually saw this guy was highly rated when he came from AFC Wimbledon. He went to Bournemouth. Bournemouth got relegated. He then went to Sheffield United, replaced Dean Henderson, who had an absolute worldy of a season with him, and then they got relegated. And I was watching this guy individually, and it wasn't like, because you can see a good goalkeeper, can't you? But he didn't look that great. But then he puts on this Arsenal shirt, and this guy's like Superman. The saves that he's built, that Leicester game, like you think, oh my days, like what the hell?
For the free kick.
Yeah. So it feels like to me, dare I say, and actually on we did an Arteta show a few weeks ago, and I even went one step further and said I actually can see Arsenal finishing fourth, which ironically also
at the time I did. At that time I was not there for it.
The irony was that Wenger got chased out because of that. Now fourth would be seen as a success this year, but it's building blocks, isn't it? Like, it's not Arteta's fault, but you've come from eighth in the nicest possible way, and you're now becoming more and more relevant, and you're doing it by not actually necessarily getting worldy players in. You're actually doing some good scouting and getting some young players in. You've brought some good players in at a good time in the academy from 16. You've got some other academy players who have homegrown from a young age, so the likes of your Sakas, I think possibly ESR, but he might come from a different club. You're able to get people like Martinelli. For some strange reason, Man United didn't fancy him on the trial, but Arsenal did, and here we are. Yeah. But you've got those players, but for me now, it's that next stage, and this is where the investment part is going to come in. It has to come in, and you're going to have to support those young players with world-class leadership. Not even necessarily like Aubameyang, from years before type skill, but just that leadership. So when the going gets tough, these young players around won't crumble, because that for me is where it's still a bit short. Yeah, it is.
That was United's issue, where we put so much pressure on a young Martial, a young Rashford. We're like, you're 19 and 20, or 20 and 21. You're going to win us trophies, and then it didn't work out. But with I think I said it back then, but I think there's still more that needs to be done, because with Arsenal, you have players that result to a type. And I have this saying that I say form is temporary, but fraud is permanent. So if you have someone like Xhaka can have a good few games, but he will result to a type. You have someone like Holding. Last season, he had a lot of good games, but he then resulted to a type. David Luiz, good games, resulted to a type. Aubameyang can have a good few games here and there, results to a type. And I think what Arteta's doing is he's shifting them out.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I think
weeding
that's the crucial thing. Yeah, bit by bit.
Yeah.
Any player who seems to question, and I think this is the pep in him at this point. You know, it's my way or the highway. Anybody who's even questioning him on a holiday, like why have we ordered those food that food for tonight? What's that? You're out. You know what I mean? It's he's not having any of it, and fair enough. You know, he's the manager. But you know what? I'm going to sort of end that segment there on a good way. Like, Aussie's been talking fairly nice about Man United and Rangnick, and actually the future's bright. And I feel like we're saying the future's getting brighter with Arsenal. So I think that's a probably good place in these two great clubs in terms of diplomacy. I think that's probably a good place to stop, because I actually want to get you guys on to a couple of fun questions, and then I've got going to do this Premier League best ever combined 11. Just a couple of things. What is your remains to be seen, but okay. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. So just a quick fire one. Best rivalry moment, Sam. What is your best Arsenal Man United rivalry moment?
8-2. Ridiculous, absolutely hilarious to watch.
I felt like that was the start of the declining years of Arsenal. At that point,
Nani literally flicking the ball up and dropping players while bouncing the ball on his head. It was an absolute joke.
8-2. I get the feel I know what Aussie's one's going to be, but Aussie, what's yours?
We won the league.
Yeah,
at your place.
I thought I might come out.
For me, when we did that, I just went, "You guys can't do shit anymore. This is bad." Winning the league at.
Just looking at the shirt behind, that's not the Sega one, is it? Behind you, the Omri one. Because it's the Sega kit, wasn't it?
No, these are all new school kits. I've got behind me all new school kits.
That's from
these are
4 years ago, I think.
That would be about, the Omri one would be probably 2014, 15, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
These are all new kits, guys. My kits, I've got heaps of them, old school to new school. I've got classic names on them. You should see my Keane one. You'd love that. But I think winning the league at Old Trafford for me, again, because of the rivalry and what it meant, I just went, that is the icing. That's perfect. That's a cherry right there. That's perfect for me. 8-2s and all that. That was abysmal from our end. But again, you look at the squad we had. So yeah, I've got to give you guys that part. You guys fucking ruthless in that.
You know what? The funniest thing, which probably.
You're going to play about the 1 point this way, 1 point that way, winning the league shit? You're going to play that?
No. Actually, it's actually
you did it. It was like, the fuck?
Yeah, it wasn't even. This is actually a really random memory. But when you had the Keane Vieira tunnel incident. Yeah, that's the classic, and that is definitely up there. But to really talk about how ridiculous this rivalry was, there was a League Cup game between United and Arsenal, and basically it was the reserves that were playing. So you talk about likes of Kieran Richardson and people like that. The people viewing this now are googling who the hell's this guy. Yeah. But these were youth players, and they were kicking off of each other. This wasn't Vieira. This wasn't Keane. There was no first teamers, but it was just pure reserves academy players, and they were kicking off, pulling shirts and like pushing each other and proper smashing each other. I'm thinking, this is deep. When your youth players are doing this,
the future is bright. The future's looking good.
Or not in this case.
Not in this case. I was like, this is all right. We can live with this.
But it just kind of enforced how big this rivalry was. That even the kids took it seriously. So that was brilliant to see. And we always laugh now because I think for me, Man United Arsenal it's a social media derby. Social. AFTV and the United standing there having football matches against each other, and then you were getting a Aubameyang being called the Gabonese Jamie Vardy and things like that. I think a lot of people got engaged in that, thinking that was still a rivalry, but I feel like that's just more of a social media thing. That back then was where it was at, and that was absolutely brilliant for me. Right,
that we had back then was phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know if you guys remember. Remember the Van Nistelrooy incident?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, Martin
I don't
Keown.
know.
Battle of Old Trafford.
I'm
Martin
a
Keown.
bit too young for that.
Yeah. Well, Martin Keown, right? He's probably one of the hardest defenders you're ever going to see. This guy used to take out his own players in training. And when Martin Keown's got you in his sights, it's a bad place to be. And I swear, if you get a chance, jump on, have a look at that that wonderful penalty from Van Nistelrooy, and and both teams going at it, especially Martin Keown. Martin Keown wanted to pull him apart. That there, if you guys watch that, anyone's watching this, if you guys look at that, you're going to understand what the rivalry really was just from that moment.
Yeah. Sam, just to put this into context for a Man United fan perspective. So that was the Invincibles year.
Yeah.
And it was a last minute penalty. And basically, if United scored that penalty, and it's Van Nistelrooy, he couldn't miss. He couldn't miss. And that was the thing. So it was very significant from that point of view as well, because then you had these idiots crying for God knows how long. But you know what? The following season actually was even sweeter.
Oh yeah. We ended it.
Not as sweet as being invincible. I'm just it's just was it a gold trophy you guys got? I don't know.
No, it was just that's how intense the games were, wasn't it? Because you were on that unbeaten run. We're like, we've got to stop these people. You know, they're starting to break records, and you're thinking, God, we don't want this now. And like, and then that win,
anything we can do.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Even a dodgy penalty, but it's all good. Yeah.
Here we go. Here we go.
You know.
Here we go. We're gonna start now.
Right, guys. The final fun bit. I challenged you guys to, and myself actually, to do a best Premier League. So this is all time Arsenal United combined 11. So you know what? I'm gonna start with Aussie here because he was very confident that his was levels. So so what we're gonna do, Aussie, we'll get you to go through your formation first, and then we'll go from goalkeeper right to left, then right back to left back, and then so on forth.
All right, I'm gonna pull it down because I had it all there. I'm just gonna find it again. Actually, I'll just do it off the top of my head. We had Peter Schmeichel in goal. I think anyone who argues with me on that one is an idiot. I think he's probably one of the best goalkeepers ever. I love David Seaman. I think David Seaman was a great goalkeeper. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think as good as Schmeichel. Pretty sure I had Lee Dixon on the right. Not because of longevity, but because of the work rate. The guy was just phenomenal. Rio in there. Yeah. You can't do it without Rio. You can't. Sorry. Martin Keown, great. Rio. We just got to give Rio credit, man. That guy was a great defender. But beside him, Tony Adams. I think that would have been gun. Controversial, Cashley Cole. I think great.
Only for you.
I think great left back. Great left back. I think on his day, probably one of the best left backs we've ever had. Whatever. Center of the park. Now this is the best part of it because I was playing the 4-2-3-1. I put Keane and Vieira side by side, and I swear anyone who wants to come down the middle, good bloody luck. Good luck getting down the middle. Good luck. I swear. Imagine those guys working together. Oh my God, a match made in hell.
Jesus.
Yeah. That'd be horrible. Like seriously, but looking at that, anyone who's seen those two guys play, you're not going down the middle of the park. Okay? It's not gonna happen. On the left, one of your boys. I couldn't do it without Ronaldo. Could not do it without Ronaldo. Ronaldo had to be on the left wing. In the middle of the park, the one, the only, Dennis Bergkamp. He would be right there as the number 10. On the right, I was weighing up between Ljungberg and Giggs, but I've pushed to Giggs because if I don't put Giggs there, it'd be silly. I think he was probably one of the best wingers of that era. Up front, we all know who's going to be there. It's not going to be Van Nistelrooy. It's not going to be any of your boys. It's going to be Thierry Henry. And I think that squad there, they would slap him every single day of the week and probably twice on Sunday. Defensively sound. I didn't do a bench, but the bench would have been phenomenal as well because there's no Cantona there, there's no Beckham there, there's no Ian Wright there. You know what I mean? There's a whole bunch of players that could have come in there as well, but Pires, Reyes, whatever you want. But I think that would be my best squad between the two.
Nice. I don't think it's particularly controversial. I was decent. I know Arsenal fans still cry about Ashley Cole, but they have to allow it. He was decent. Go on, Sam. I'm so curious to know because Aussie, just to put it into context, this guy, I'm not gonna lie to you.
He's gonna put Schweinsteiger in there. Come on,
he's got
Schweinsteiger in there, and I'm gonna lose my shit.
Sam has a bit of an Arsenal agenda at times, and I'm very curious. I'm just very curious to see what happens here.
Okay, so in goal, I put Van der Sar. Yes, Peter Schmeichel is a very good keeper. A bit before my time though, but I think with Van der Sar, because the only thing I've seen of Schmeichel is just watching clips back, and sometimes
oh my god,
he just sometimes Peter Schmeichel.
Oh good, my team's beating yours already. Go for it.
Peter Schmeichel at times did seem a bit like, I don't know why, but to me he did seem like he could possibly make.
He had his moments. He
looks like he could have a moment. I don't think I've ever seen Van der Sar even have remotely close to a moment. He was solid.
I must admit, I can only recall Van der Sar is very underrated for this, but this is because he hasn't had the trophies compared to perhaps Schmeichel did. But yeah, I think I can only recall 2 mistakes that this guy made. But
and like the way he controlled the defense, the way the clutch saves he would make, and people talk about, oh, you're a penalty specialist. This guy could do it all. If you want to say a penalty specialist, ask Chelsea fans. They hate him because he's cost them so many trophies on penalties. Absolutely ridiculous. Then at right back, I put the one and only Gary Neville. Because
are you kidding me? Dude, my team versus your team is 8-0 already. Keep going, bro.
I think my cap dropped a little bit when you said that.
This is your boy. This is your boy here, man. This is one of your boys here, man. What the fuck is this? Okay, Gary Neville, go for it, man.
There's actually vodka in this.
There has to be.
I think
don't justify it. Don't justify it, please.
I think he's very underrated. I think maybe he might not be the most spectacular.
There's a reason why he's underrated, but anyway.
I think he might not be the most spectacular, but he's a very consistent and solid player. I think, like, if across the whole season, you're looking at someone that if fit, week in, week out, can basically do what's needed to be done. Anything that was asked of him, he rose up and he did. Even being captain as well, he's shown great leadership skills. Then centre back, I have to do them as a pair because this might be the greatest centre back pairing I've ever seen, and I don't think anything has come close.
He's gonna put Vidic in there. Come on.
He's
gonna put Vidic in there.
Rio and Vidic. I don't think like I think only one player I've seen stop them, and that was Messi. I don't know how he did it, Messi, but obviously I believe that Messi is not a human. He's proof that we have extraterrestrials on Earth playing football. Just slipped in between and scored that goal. But apart from that, absolutely solid, ridiculous. Is the fact that at times you don't even see them communicate. At times they just knew on like some form of psychic level what each other was doing. I think you can't have one without the other.
I don't know. Their psychic abilities seem to disappear when Torres was playing.
We're gonna ignore that. Torres had a jammer. It's okay. So Torres he had a jammer.
Okay.
And then left back. Ashley Cole, because I think we can't. To me, that is the greatest left back I've ever seen. I think people talk about modern day like, oh, going forward and going backwards, who can do it all? Ashley Cole could do it all to a high level. He wasn't one person. He wasn't this kind of player that was like, oh, I can kind of do one kind of all right, but then the other one not as well. Going forward and defensively, absolutely dominant, absolutely complete fullback. Then midfield, You're not gonna like this. So I went with a 4-3-3. So it's gonna be a 3 in midfield.
Oh, God.
In the DM,
He's gonna put Beckham in there, and I'm gonna piss myself laughing. Because if you honestly, most Man United players like what Beckham did, but he didn't do much. But anyway, kick on, go for it.
So in that DM role, I put Michael Carrick, and I think you could be. People might say Vieira. The thing is, you might say other people. You might say Vieira could go there. You might say Gilberto Silva. I don't personally. You heard it from Pep himself. Pep said this guy is on the level of Xabi Alonso and Busquets.
And Xabi Alonso and Busquets weren't better than Vieira, so it's all right.
That's your opinion. That's your opinion.
Yeah, Sam, go on. Keep going.
You have that.
We're gonna keep moving. Michael Carrick. Didn't he just walk away from the job anyway?
Yeah. And then obviously I put Paul Scholes because that is the greatest midfielder I've ever seen. I don't think if we're going to argue,
on the left or the right, because he got 4-3-3, so we're gonna have
Scholes is on the left.
On the left.
He's on the left. I don't think anyone can really argue that is the greatest Premier League midfielder. I think if you are trying to, you're a bit ridiculous. Because the fact that a whole academy would sit there watching videos of him to learn how to play football speaks to the volumes of how good he was. And then at right midfield, right centre midfield, I put Roy Keane, because if you like
on the right hand side, okay.
On right midfield, on right centre midfield. So you're
playing a narrow 3.
Yeah. So yeah, people might say Vieira had more ability, but when it came down to it on the day, who won the match? Like, who won the midfield battle? You could argue that Roy Keane won the midfield battle on day.
Was that based on YouTube?
I think that's on YouTube. Watching. I think he's been watching a bit of YouTube. It's all right. It's all right.
To be fair, on MUTV they do show the full game. So
like during lockdown, especially MUTV showed a lot of games, so you can actually see like the full length. And Roy Keane is basically willing to kill a man to not lose a game. And I think look out stuff that he did in like the Juventus game, absolutely ridiculous.
So who are your top 3 then? Please tell me there's an Arsenal player in that top. Yeah,
top 3. Granted, it might look like granted all three of these players are just going to move around wherever they want because they don't stay in their position. I put on left wing, I put Henry, because that's probably the greatest Premier League player ever, hands down. I think that's a bit obvious. I put on right wing, I put Ronaldo, because Ronaldo is Ronaldo, CR7. Arsenal fans hate him for a reason. He used to terrorize your club. And then up front, I put Wayne Rooney, because Wayne Rooney is, for me, is probably that's probably, to me, if you think Henry's the best, that is who's right afterwards. Because Rooney did the goals, he did the assists. Later on, he started doing all this ridiculous midfield controlling, like put him anywhere, make him do anything, he just does it. And I think though that as a front 3 is too dangerous, because you're gonna have to have 3 players that move around doing whatever they want to do. They're all gonna know, and they're all intelligent, so they know how to play football, and they're not just gonna do something stupid. You're just going to have 3 players that understand the game and are going to move so ridiculously. No defense will be able to handle it.
I must admit, I just kind of knew that this was going to happen, Sam. I'm not going to.
I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, we've missed out on some quality players, but it's all right.
So I'm gonna go through mine just to save a pub fight at this point, because I feel like mine's probably most sort of down the middle. In my humble opinion, of course. So in goal, so I've gone for a very, I'm pretending I'm playing FIFA here by the looks of things. It looks like a very fluid 4-2-4 at this point. But in goal is Schmeichel. I think you got some good goalkeepers in Van der Sar. I think De Gea perhaps needs a few more seasons, perhaps a bit more success. But I think for him, like Schmeichel was the guy there. Just that character, does that persona. Yeah, he did have a couple of gaffes, but at the same time, he made some outrageous saves, and he was a goalkeeper. He was a goalkeeper. He was a nut job. Lauren for me at right back. I looked at it and I thought you had
a coin. I was flipping a coin there, but I said no. It's got to be.
I thought about it as well. I thought about Lauren as well.
Gary Neville and Lee Dixon, and they're very. Don't get me wrong, they're very good at what they did, and they worked hard and everything like that. I just kind of feel that with Lauren, he's a bit sort of underrated, really, because he was just as reliable, and probably I would probably say better football wise than those two. So
he was better.
I'd pick him. Yeah,
it was better on the ball, definitely.
And I think that was the thing for me, like, because Neville, he had that level of success, but was he as good on the ball? Was Dicko? Probably not as compared to Lauren. Lauren was as consistent when he wasn't injured for Arsenal for those good 5 years, I'd say. In defence, this is really, really tough because you had basically leader and leader. So you had your likes of your Campbells, your Vidic, etc. But for me, some people have even thrown Jaap Stam, but I don't think he had a long enough career in the Prem, to be honest. But I think Adams, for the leadership part, I don't think you can underestimate just how much this guy did for Arsenal and in the Prem. This guy was, if you think how long the Premier League was going, and he retired 2002.
Yeah,
and he was a pillar in that defense every time. It was always through him. And when we talk about leadership, and when fans they want that is that type of guy, and he could play. He could play in all conditions, all manner of conditions. So yeah, him for me, and then Ferdinand. It was a tough one between thinking about him and
you have to put Rio.
Sol
you
Campbell
got to put Rio in there.
Yeah,
I was looking at Sol Campbell too, and I go, nah, Rio was. You got to put Rio in there.
It's a nice combination, I feel, with how they both play. And then Ashley Cole, for me, maybe it's sort of biased. You got people like Dennis Irwin, Patrice Evra was great, but I think Ashley Cole was like that first modern. I know you could, but also a lot of people will say perhaps Roberto Carlos was, but in the Prem, he was that first modern fullback who was as good going forward as he was defending. I think defensively, I can actually recall him having, keeping Messi quiet, keeping Ronaldo quiet. If anything, he actually, I think he always said that he hated playing against Rooney. He loved playing against Ronaldo. How many defenders, how many fullbacks can say that they've had Messi in their pocket and Ronaldo in their pocket? Not many. So he goes in for me. The midfield,
Roberto Carlos.
In my head for the midfield, I'm thinking there's control here. So you got Vieira for the obvious reasons that have been discussed. But I think with Scholes, because it's very easy to talk about Keane and Vieira, and it's like, they're going to block. But I think the level of dictation, I love a midfielder who can dictate football. And with Scholes, whether he was doing it as a cam or deep, he always had it. And I think that combination with Vieira is just sick for me. And yeah, there may be two in midfield, but when the opposition hasn't got the ball, then what does it matter? And then you've got a very fantasy based, bloody front four. And it feels fluid as well. So from the right, you got Cristiano Ronaldo. I just think this guy, he terrorized Arsenal. But there's seasons after the what's it, like 2006, like it was just something else. It was absolutely ridiculous. And like Bex is my favorite player of all time, but this guy's just head and shoulders. On the left, Henry. So very attack minded. You got Ronaldo and Henry both going in, but Henry was the scariest player for me outside of Manchester United. There's two players that I always feared, Henry and David Silva, because David Silva, everyone used to fear Aguero. I feared the man that fed him the bullets. But we're going back to Henry. I've seen Arsenal legit be down to 9 men but because he's playing, Arsenal can still win a game. And that's how good Arsenal were back then. And Henry was the epitome of that. And anytime we just do that run from the left, it was just game over. It was just game over. He was just ridiculous. One of the best ever Premier League players ever. And then up front, look, mad respect for Bergkamp, but I just think Cantona in terms of that, I said it earlier, in the stream and everything. This guy just had everything about him. He had absolute swagger. He had so many match-winning moments. I think that was probably the difference, because I know Bergkamp technically was unbelievably gifted, but it's just the sheer wins from Cantona alone that got the nod. And I think from that striker point of view, but then I'm thinking he can interchange with Ronaldo, Cantona, or Henry, and that's Wayne Rooney. I think arguably one of Manchester United's greatest players ever. You look at the fact that he would fight for the team. He is a team player. He sacrificed his career to be a team player. He sacrificed his career so Ronaldo can get the spotlight, whilst he didn't have to track back. Rooney did. Rooney could play on the left. He could play in the middle. He could play right. He was so interchangeable. He could play midfield. If he was bored, he'd play midfield. And that was just the guy. And he was like the last of those street footballers as well. That aggression, but skill. He had to play angry. He's one of those players who had to play angry. I think that was probably the thing that sort of stopped him in the end, is when he became captain. He had that responsibility. It felt like it took a bit out of his game, but yeah, unbelievable. So yeah, very fantasy based, but I love that lineup. I'm not going to lie. I'm seeing goals all day long. This is Kevin Keegan football. You score 3, we score 4.
Oh god.
Okay. So do we have enough time to do one that we all can agree on? Because I think there's certain players that we can agree on. Or do you think that we'd be virtually strangling each other's necks at this point?
I think we'll end up taking each other out. This would end up going for like 45 minutes of us debating who the hell should play right back. We want to make a plus right back.
Now, to be fair, now that's probably that's probably good to. We've done our 3, but guys, on that's all our opinions here. But what is it that you think? What is your combined best ever Premier League Man United Arsenal combined 11? Let us know. Let us know in the comments, on the socials. Don't forget to follow the ministry on Instagram, on Twitter. Aussie, Aussie has his own show on YouTube. Aussie, do you want to do a little segment for yourself?
Oh, mate, much appreciated. Look, I'm TheAussieGooner on YouTube. You'll also see me as TheAussieGooner on Instagram. You're either going to see me really happy or really shitty. It's one or the other. There's no middle ground with me. There's no, it's all right. Nah. It's either I'm going to be losing my mind or I'm going to be jumping for joy. Check me out. Look, I call Arsenal games down the line, and I'm not one of those bandwagon Arteta out, Arteta in. I'm Arsenal for a win. That's all I'm more about.
Yeah. No, guys, I follow Aussie, and yeah, it's great, absolutely great content. And like Arsenal, well, not just Arsenal fans, all fans, like follow this guy, but certainly Arsenal fans, represent your boy. He's one of your own. Get involved. So, like, I think it's a perfect way to wrap up. Guys, be on the lookout for the next show. We're going to talk about our top 10 greatest moments of 2021. Don't start laughing, Sam. There are plenty of moments in 2021. I promise you. There's some absolute corkers in there. This is going to be before New Year, so be on the lookout for that one. And as we get into 2022, it's going to be some big exciting shows, especially with AFCON coming up. So be on the lookout for that. But for me, guys, as I said, don't forget, share this, like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow myself, Jinky with 2 Y's in the end, and Doctor Who Sam 7. And hope you're enjoying your Christmas period. And we'll look forward to seeing you just before the new year. Peace.